So how to mix plaster properly. Take one. We're going to need a couple of buckets. First of all, one bucket you might want to prepare before you start mixing. Up here we have a bucket of sand. The reason you want a bucket of sand is you want someplace to put your cast hand after you've poured the plaster. Just a little scoop of sand should be sufficient. And you're most likely going to want to find a spot on the countertop for your bucket. For right now, I'm just going to put it next to Simon. Okay? You're going to also need another clean bucket for actually mixing your plaster. I'm going to grab my mold from yesterday. Mixing plaster, the reaction begins with water. Okay? Since it's a chemical reaction, something you can do to slow the reaction time is use cold water. Okay, so make sure that the water is running cold before you begin, and you're just going to fill up your mold from yesterday. You don't have to go necessarily to the tippity top, but pretty darn close. Okay. If you happen to notice that your hand casting is leaking, if there's water dripping out, well, plaster is going to drip out too. So what you could do is take one of the brushes that's over there and use some of the wax to kind of patch it up like it's a Band-Aid. All right? So I'm going to take my cold water and pour it into my clean bucket. And then over here, we've got the powdered plaster. Now you don't want to get water into that bag, otherwise that whole bag would get ruined. I wish there was a way. You're going to need a stick and something to scoop the plaster. I wish there was a way for me to tell you exactly how many scoops to put in here. But different people have different size hands. And it's more, you're looking for a couple things. You're looking for the consistency of the plaster. So I've got the powder. Kind of like when we did wheat paste. Instead of just dumping this in, you might want to sift it slowly. I kind of start mixing and just sifting in the powder as I go. If you dump it in, it's going to get really clumpy. That may have happened to some of you when you did wheat paste. Now, this is not the time when you're like, I'm kind of thirsty. I'm going to go get a drink. Or I need to go to the bathroom. Because the powder is in the water at this point, and the reaction has begun. Give this a good stir. What you're looking for, though, is it will start to become less watery. It will start becoming a little soupy. Be a little bit thicker. What you're looking for is something about the consistency of, say, like a melted milkshake, or some people have described it as pancake batter. I know you guys can't see exactly what I'm doing here, but I'll bring it around. You're looking for it to start thickening up. Now the real test here, you'll notice that it's a little bit thicker. The true test is what I call the finger test. If you dip your finger into the plaster, your finger should come out completely opaque. If you notice any type of separation, I'm starting to see a little bit of my skin through the plaster. It still seems a little watery. I bet I don't need a lot more plaster, but a little bit should do. Again, your finger should come out completely opaque. meaning that you can't see through. If you notice any separation, that's an indication that you need more powder. All right, we're getting there. We're getting there. I can just tell by how thick this is getting. How many of you ever make pancakes? Some of you. So you're familiar with what pancake batter sort of looks like? This consistency is about what I'm looking for. I know that not everybody can see exactly. But again, a good finger test is a good indication. That seems pretty opaque, and it's not running down my finger too much. When in doubt, add a little extra powder. If you're like, I don't know if it's enough or not. All right. You want to have your mold ready to go? And I'm going to pour it in. Now I'm not going to go all the way up yet. You might want to give it a little pat, 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 pat. If there's any air bubbles, you're kind of burping the baby here. You're trying to get any air bubbles to come out. And now this is where that bucket of sand comes in handy. This may have gotten a little bit thick, you guys, just a little bit. But if I wait any longer, this is going to be too thick to pour. All right. Maybe give it another pat, 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 pat. And then your bucket of sand. I left my casting inside of here. Can you see it in there, Emily? You're just going to leave it at that point, okay? At that point, the reaction is going to keep going. Your plaster will set up within the hour. It will actually start putting off some heat. If you have extra plaster in your bucket, do not dump it down the drain. Just either leave it in the bucket and leave it alone, and once it's dry, we'll smash it out of there. Or, I wonder what else I could pour this extra plaster into. Press molds. Oh my gosh, that's why we have press molds ready to go. So if you have extra plaster, that's why you want your press mold ready to go. And like I said, you guys, this is a little bit thick, a little bit thicker than what I'd like, but